Before you play in a game, or before you play in a match in a tournament, what is your pre-match routine?
The day of the match, I usually try to stay as relaxed as possible. I don't like to walk around a lot or talk to people a lot. I'd like to stay in the room, have some, nice light lunch, light meal, usually pasta or some any sort of carbs. And then before the match, I think I usually prefer to avoid contact with people. I'm the kind of guy who does things.
Antisocial on game day.
Yeah, antisocial. Yeah, I am. But I'm a bit different than the other guys. I mean, if I'm staying at the hotel and the courts are like 2 minutes away, I would go to the venue maybe 25 minutes before the match. I mean, other players would stay there for like an hour, watch some games, and then do a long and do a long warm up. I don't do that. I like to go, if I can, just start my warm up and get straight on court. It's better for me. I mean, I took it to a stretch last week in San Francisco when I made it 5 minutes before the match. So it can work against me sometimes.
Where is he?
I got delayed. Yeah, I got delayed in traffic, and it was so bad. Even though it was a 5-minute drive, but I got delayed. And it's edgy, It's not something you would want to happen before a match. So I need to work on that. But when it works, everything works well. That's how I like to do it. I like to be there maximum 30 minutes before, chill for like 10 minutes, and then change my shoes and start my warm up, and then just get going.
And do you believe in visualization of your match before you play, or like?
Absolutely. I mean, as I told you, I had this mental coach who worked with me on so many things. One of them was visualizing a game plan, visualizing maybe a previous match that I had with this opponent, and how the rallies went, and how well. I always try to visualize in a positive manner.
Right.
So you imagine yourself winning, you imagine yourself constructing good rallies, where you execute all the plans perfectly. I mean, it doesn't work like that in the match, but it helps.
Yeah.
It helps. To be honest, I don't always do that, but ideally I should. Like, if I had the time and like the peace of mind to do it, it works much better. But some days you're just a bit, maybe slightly too nervous, and you're not able to visualize as well as other days. So that's when I don't do it. I maybe listen to some music and just do my warm up and try to get my head into the match.
So in terms of advice for juniors, what is your advice to junior squash players?
Yeah, well, I have a good piece of advice for the juniors, because I wish I had been given that advice when I was younger. It's a bit different than what players would say. I think they should watch a lot of squash matches on. Now they have Squash TV.
Right.
Matches
are live and
I mean, they can watch it live. They can watch the replays. As many matches as they can. Probably better with the coaches. You have no idea the amount of information you can learn or you can gather from watching other players play, because when I was in college, I was a decent player, but I thought, nah, I don't need to watch anything, I'm good this way, I thought I was like, this is working, I have studies, I have other things more important to do, there's no need for me to watch, but I felt like I paid the price afterwards. Because you fall behind, you realize that your opponents have studied you and have studied everyone else, and they have had, massive plans how to deal with every opponent, how to break them, find the weaknesses and try to, attack them. And I was like nowhere near this sort of, mind frame. It took me a few years to learn a lot about the game that I was supposed to be. I mean, I was in the top. I consider myself. I had zero education at the sport that I was already a top 20 player in. I was just forcing my way against some opponents but there were other opponents that I was unable to break. I mean, I would get like a crazy win against someone, but then I lose to him 20 other times because I had no idea what I was doing. You know,
Right.
I'm just playing my game.
Yeah.
If it works, then fine. If it doesn't work, then no. I mean, tough luck.
Yeah.
But now that I have a coach who told me no. Actually, what I had two coaches who told me actually no. There's something called strategy, learning, learning your opponents. I mean, I don't have to study my opponents. I'd have to maybe get new ideas from other players. Some player had this new technique or new game plan that could work with me, and I could use it.
Yeah.
So you learn a lot from watching. So imagine if I'd done that as a kid. By now, I would have had, a lot of information in my head. I'm thankful that I had the chance to redeem myself a bit, because I realized that, like right after I graduated. So I've been working on this for a few years now. So it gets better, every now and then. But you wouldn't want to, miss a lot of years where you could have possibly, built something. I know I've been studying and all, but I had some time, because I wasn't traveling as much. So I could have, instead of not playing, I would have watched the matches and maybe learned a thing or two. But I didn't do that, so that's why I regret it. So my advice to juniors would be, would have to be this. They have to watch a lot of matches and try to, as early as possible, try to learn how things work on a squash court in a match.
Do you have a past player or like a former player or a current player that you kind of look up to or kind of see your game similar to?
I've been asked this question a few times, and I always thought about it, but I think I'd rather get one good thing out of each player. Like there isn't a complete player that I want to take everything from, because they might be too good at something that I cannot copy anyways.
That's true. Right.
So instead, I'd like to, maybe there was Amr Shabana. I used to love his technique, the simplicity of how he hits the ball. I always try to focus. I mean, it was incredible the way he used to hit the ball like so smoothly and gets to the right places, So I used to admire him for that, for the simplicity. Someone like Rami, he has crazy shots all over the court. I'm not sure how can I copy, that, it's so I can maybe try to maybe learn from him how he gets himself out of trouble, for instance, or I mean, there was also Karim Darwish, who was a powerful player, and he used to dig really deep, and he had this crazy forehand he used to crush everyone with. Yeah, I like to take, bits and pieces, the discipline from that guy, admire the skills of one player, the good, maybe the good manners of some third player, That's how that's how it works with me. I don't have one specific player that I want to be a copy of,
Right. You want to be you.
I want to be me. Yes. I want to be me. For sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for being with me today.
And it's my pleasure.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You.